Good day, everyone. I am Clarice Conde, and now I am going to discuss about remedial instruction in writing. First, let's define what is writing. So, writing involves juggling many things at the same time: grammar, spelling, letter formation, vocabulary, punctuation, capitalization, content, and following the directions of educators. So when we say writing, it is the process of using symbols such as the letters of the alphabet, punctuations, and spaces just to communicate thoughts and ideas in a readable form or in written expression. So now, we will be discussing about the areas of difficulty for students with writing problems. First, the knowledge difficulties. So it involves less awareness of what constitutes good writing and how to produce it. So the students did not know what a good writing is, and of course, because of that knowledge difficulties, they do not know also how to produce a good writing. They are less aware of what really a good writing is. The second is restricted knowledge about genre-specific text structures. So the students have that restricted knowledge when it comes to identifying the setting, the plot, the characters, and other elements in a narrative or even in a story. The next one is underdeveloped knowledge of word and sentence structure. So the example of it is identifying the phonology, morphology, and syntax. So what are those terms? So when we say morphology, it is the study of words and other meaningful units of language like suffixes and prefixes. A morphologist would be interested in the relationship between words like dog and dogs, walk and walking, and how people figure out the differences between those words. While when we say syntax, it is the study of sentences and phrases, or how people put words into the right order so that they can communicate meaningfully. Like for instance, Eugene walked the dog versus the dog walked Eugene. So the order of words is not arbitrary. In order for the sentence to convey the intended meaning, the words must be in certain order. Next is the phonetics. When we say phonetics or the phonology, it is the study of individual speech sounds. Phonology is the study of phonemes, which are the speech sounds of an individual language. These two heavenly overlapping subfields cover all the sounds that human can make, as well as which sounds make up different languages. I am done discussing about the knowledge difficulties. Now let's move on to the second one, which is the skill difficulties. So first, often do not plan before or during writing. So when we say planning, it refers to the use of a deliberate and organized approach to tackling a writing task and includes a writer's first thoughts or basic ideas about the topic. So students who struggle with writing generally do not plan ahead, rather they compose their text as they write. The second one is do not analyze or reflect on writing. So the writing process is circular. It does not end when you submit the paper to your instructor. In order to make progress with each assignment, you will need to optimize feedback, reflect on your strengths and weaknesses, and plan for improvement. So basically, those students who are experiencing skill difficulties, they do not analyze or reflect on their writing. So the next one is have limited ability to self-regulate thoughts, feelings, and actions throughout writing process. When we say self-regulation, it is a skill that allows people to manage their emotions, behavior, and body movement when they are faced with a tough situation. It also allows them to do that while staying focused and paying attention. So the next one is show poor attention and concentration. So what's the difference between the attention and concentration? When we say attention, it is the ability to focus on a task or subject, while concentration, it is the ability to maintain this attention for a certain amount of time. I am done discussing the knowledge difficulties, also the skill difficulties. Now let's move on to the third one, which is the motivational difficulties. So first, often do not develop writing goals and sub-goals. In other words, setting strong writing goals encourages you to imagine what type of writer you want to be and what skills are needed to make that identity a reality, establish a manageable path to success. So writing goals are more than objectives you hope to achieve. They are a roadmap to your writing success. So goals help us become better versions of ourselves. Writing down your goals means that you can visually see them. This is an important point because when we see something, it really affects how we act, right? So you're more likely to be productive if you can see what you have to do instead of just thinking about it. The next one is fail to balance performance goals. Perhaps you want to write a best-selling novel or to become the next viral video YouTube star. Well, that's great, and there's nothing wrong with that. But how do you plan to make any of this to happen? Without a clear definition of your goals, they are just a wishy-washy fantasies. So not reaching a goal because of the fear of failure is crippling and an insecurity that can seriously hold you back in life. So nobody wants to fail, and the fear of failure often stems from a need for perfectionism. The next one is have negative self-efficacy or the competency beliefs. So according to Bandura, social cognitive theory self-efficacy, it is the key personal variable of Bandura's social cognitive theory. It is defined as an individual's belief in his or her own ability to organize and implement action to produce the desired achievements and results. So students who have this negative self-efficacy, meaning to say they do not believe on their individual capacity or individual ability. The next one is lack persistence. What is lack persistence or the lack of persistence? It is a weakness common to the majority of people. It is a weakness that may be overcome by effort. So I have experienced this a lot in my life, and I believe that almost everyone has at the same point in their life. But the question is, why do we give up on things? Is it because we are not as good as them as we thought? Or is it because we failed in trying to achieve them? The answer to the problem of giving up on things is that we lack persistence. The point is this: you are not bad at that thing you are trying to achieve, and failure in achieving things is not what is holding you back. There is only one thing that is preventing you from achieving success, and that is the what we call lack of persistence. Persistence means going forward even when the circumstances are holding you back. So in life, you will see a lot of failures in different aspects. Your goal was to start writing a good to write an essay, like for example, but you failed in achieving that goal. Or another scenario might be that you lost motivation in the process and you gave up. So you will think that failure and lack of motivation are what is holding you back from achieving success? Of course not. The point is that deep down, you yourself are aware that failure and a lack of motivation are not enough to hold you back from achieving the things that you want to. So the problem is that you are lacking persistence. The reason for you not being able to achieve success is because you are not persistent in whatever is that you want to accomplish. So a lack of persistence means you give up because of that minor inconveniences even when you have the strength to keep moving forward. The last you feel helpless and poorly motivated due to repeated failure. So because you have a lot of mistakes, like for instance, you made an essay and then as the teacher returned your paper, there's a lot of corrections and errors. So because of that repeated failure, you feel that you are helpless and poorly motivated rather in your writing process. So next, the qualities of strong writing instruction. So in order for teachers to support all students' writing ability development, certain qualities of the writing classroom must be present. So there are core components of effective writing instruction constitute the foundation of any good writing program. So first, students should have meaningful writing experiences and be assigned authentic writing tasks. So according to Lucy Calkins, we cannot teach writing well unless we trust that there is a real or human reason to write. The second one is routines should permit students to become comfortable with the writing process. So the lessons should be presented to help students master craft elements like for instance, text structure and character development, writing skills like for instance, spelling or the punctuation, and also the process strategies, and the example of these process strategies is planning and also revising. Adaptations for struggling writers. So first, accommodation in the learning environment. Increase instructional time for writing. So as a teacher, if before you're just teaching about writing twice a week, now you're going to increase your instructional time like every day or let's say every other day to help them develop their writing skills. The second one, provide quiet and comfortable spaces for students to work. So each classroom will be set up based on what is necessary to meet learning objectives. But schools will also prioritize configuring classes to inspire learning first and foremost, and where appropriate, reflect the diversity of environments that students are exposed to outside a school setting. The third one is to provide access to writing tools. And the fourth is to consult with an occupational therapist to identify specialized adaptation. So what is that occupational therapist? So occupational therapists help special needs children learn how to function independently. Not only do they promote self-esteem and value, but they also work with developing cognitive, motor, and even physical skills. So one of the related services that a child with special needs might qualify for is the occupational therapy or the OT. The OTs or the occupational therapies consultative work consists of discussion, negotiation, information, or instruction in relation to the advice and recommendations given. They also provide supervision and support to patients, relatives, and assistant staff. So the advice and recommendations are evaluated. So it is very important to consult with an occupational therapist for you to identify those specialized adaptations. So after the accommodations in learning environment, now the second one is accommodations in instructional materials. So first, highlight keywords and phrases. The second one is transition from simple to more elaborate graphic organizers and procedural checklist. So what is those graphic organizers? So graphic organizers are a helpful learning tool for students of all ages just to organize, to clarify, or simplify complex information. They help students to construct understanding through an exploration of the relationship between concepts. So the next one is post strategies, graphic organizers, and checklists in classroom and give students personal copies. So like what I said earlier, it is very important that we also show graphic organizers to our students, and also we need also to give personal copies to each of our students. The next is Develop individualized spelling lists. So as teachers, we are always trying to do everything we can make just to make sure we are meeting the educational needs of our students as much as possible. Every student is different, and sometimes teaching the same material to every student can make it more difficult for each individual student to get practice with what they really need to be focusing on. So if you're allowed some flexibility in this area, individualized spelling lists are so beneficial to your student because it can help them become more efficient spellers. So the next one is have students keep a personal dictionary words and frequently use spelling vocabulary. First, we know that the young children acquire vocabulary indirectly. First, by listening when others speak or read to them, and then by using words to talk to others. As children begin to read and write, they acquire more words through understanding what they are reading and then incorporate those words into their speaking and writing. So vocabulary knowledge varies greatly among learners. The word knowledge gap between groups of children begins before they enter school. Why do some students have a richer, fuller vocabulary than some of their classmates? The answer is, first, speaking vocabulary are not encouraged at their home. The second one, they only have limited experiences outside of their home. And the last reason is that they only have limited exposure to books. Next is provide paper positioning marks on students' desk. We are all familiar with this because not of our students are left-handed. Some of them are right-handed, right? So one way to encourage legibility with handwriting and ease of written work is to address paper placement and paper positioning on the desk. Sometimes kids have difficulty with placing the paper on the desk and might hold it very close to the edge of the desk, off to one side of the desk, or in an awkward placement. So when we're writing, holding the paper in place with the non-dominant hand at the corner of the paper can help with stabilization and pencil rather control. This desktop paper positioner will help kids with paper placement when they are writing. So kids who write with their right hand should position the paper to the left diagonal. Vice versa, the top of the paper should be positioned toward the left corner, or let's say the left top corner of their desk. Next is provide pencil grips for students. So what is the pencil grips? Pencil grips are small, impermanent attachment that fit onto a pencil. They help a child or even those adults have a punctuational and accurate grasp of a pencil. Used correctly, a pencil grip can help develop fine motor skills and user control over their handwriting. Next, provide raised or colored lined paper. So raised lined paper helps the students by having an embossed or raised line giving them sensory feedback for the top and bottom lines. Other adapted writing paper may have different colored top, middle, and bottom lines to give students cues for beginning and ending letters. The last, provide students with personal copies of alphabet strips. So these sets allow your students to practice the lower letters or the uppercase letters, the capital and the small one. The next one is accommodations in teaching strategies. First, devote more instructional time to writing mechanics. So providing adequate time for students to write is one essential element of an effective writing instruction program. Second is to provide physical assistance during handwriting practice. So as a future educator, during the handwriting practice of our students, it is very important that we have physical assistance to them. We need to guide them while they are practicing doing that handwriting. Next is to reteach writing skills and strategies. So when we teach about writing skills and strategies, we need to reteach, or we need to recall it to our students before we discuss another lessons to them about writing. Next is to expect and support mastery learning of skills and strategies. So mastery learning is a set of group-based, individualized, or teaching and learning strategies based on the premise that students will achieve a high level of understanding in a given domain if they are given enough time. So next, assign homework designed to reinforce writing instruction. So a good assignment helps the professors and also the students to pursue the learning goals. So as a future educator, it is very important that we also give assignments or homeworks to our students for them to practice writing or to reinforce writing instruction. Next, help students develop self-instructions and self-questions that focus on positive attributions for success and task progress. Next is to teach students to evaluate and adjust their writing behaviors and writing strategy used to improve their writing productivity and performance. So view the improvement of students' writing as your responsibility. Let students know that you value good writing. Regularly assign brief writing exercises in your classes. Provide guidance throughout the writing process. So again, like what I said earlier, it is very important that we provide guidance throughout the writing process and handwriting practice of our students. So we need also to let them know that we value good writing. Next is to promote maintenance and generalization of writing strategies. So maintenance occurs when you continue to practice a skill that students have previously learned in order to retain the skill. Children may learn to write their names, for example, but if they do not practice it regularly, there is possibility that they may forget it. Well, generalization, it is the ability to perform a skill in a variety of settings and situations using different materials with different people. So when a child with disabilities learn to read letters on a chart, he or she may not automatically spread that skill and know those letters in a book or on a label outside of their classroom. So students with disabilities have an especially hard time maintaining and generalizing skills. It's critical that you include maintenance and generalization in your instruction to help your students make real progress in and outside of the classroom. The fourth one is the modifications to task demands. First, increase amount of time allotted for completing written assignments. So as a teacher, you must give enough time to your students to finish their assignment, especially if they have that difficulties when it comes to writing. So like for instance, we give assignments Monday. So make it sure that your deadline must be, let's say, Wednesday or Friday. We need to give enough time to our students to finish their assignments. Why? Because we cannot say that sometimes we have that students who have that difficulties when it comes to writing. Next is to decrease the length and or complexity of written assignments. So do not give assignment that is too lengthy. Just give assignments that will let you know if they really learn from you as a teacher and if they really understand your lesson. So we all know that assignments, or the purpose of assignment, is for us teacher to know whether the students learn from us or they really understand our lesson. So make sure that if we give assignments to them, it is just a short assignment just to ensure that they really learn from us. So do not give assignments, written assignments especially, that is too lengthy. We need to avoid that. Next is to reduce or eliminate copying demands. Next, allow students to use temporary or invented spelling. So inventive spelling refers to the practice of children using incorrect and unusual spelling for words. It is also sometimes called invented spelling. So typically, inventive spelling is used by students who are just learning to put sounds together to make words. Many teachers allow students to use inventive spelling as a way in expressing their thoughts without having to worry about form or the format. So invented spelling sometimes referred to as inventive spelling. It is the practice of spelling unfamiliar words with an educated guess based on phonetic knowledge. So the examples of this invented spelling include the IZ for IS, like for instance, floors for flowers. So instead of spelled flowers FLOWERS, the students spelled it as FLAWRS. So they sometimes replace IZ instead of using IS. Next, permit students to use outlining and semantic mapping software to facilitate planning. So what is semantic mapping? Semantic mapping, it is a process for constructing visual displays of categories and their relationships. It is a categorical structuring of information in graphic form. It is an approach leading students to relate new words to their own experiences and prior knowledge. They include a key concept or main idea with categorized concept related to the key concept. The categories related to the central concept and the associations among words are indicated visually in a diagram or map. Next, permit students to use voice recognition technology to facilitate text transcription. So speech recognition, also referred to as speech-to-text or voice recognition. It is a technology that recognizes speech, allowing voice to serve as the main interface between the human and the computer. This info brief discusses how current speech recognition technology facilitates student learning, as well as how the technology can develop to advance learning in the future. Next, permit students to use integrated spell checker and or word prediction software to facilitate correct spelling. So we are all familiar with this, right? The spell checker to ensure if our spelling is correct or not. Next, grades assignment based on the amount improvement rather than absolute performance. So grading can be frustrating for teachers as there are many factors to consider, right? In addition, report cards typically summarize in brief format a variety of assessments and so cannot provide much information about students' strengths and weaknesses. This means that report cards focus more on assessment of learning than assessment for learning. There are a number of decisions that have to be made when assigning students grades, and schools often have detailed policies that teachers have to follow. So let's define the difference between assessment for learning and assessment of learning. When we say assessment for learning, it is the ongoing assessment that allows teachers to monitor students on a day-to-day basis and modify their teaching based on what the students need to be successful. The example of this is the formative test, the quizzes. Next is assessment of learning. It is the snapshot in time that lets the teacher, students, and their parents know how well each student has completed the learning tasks and activities. It provides information about student achievement. While it provides useful reporting information, it often has little effect on learning. So the example of this assessment of learning is the summative test of the students. Next, Provide feedback on content, organization, style, and convention. What are the difference between the three words? So when we say conventions, the use of punctuations, grammar, and spelling. When we say content, it is the main focus or the message of the written articles, or let's say the writing output. Next is the organizational style. So after deciding which main points and subpoints you must include, you can get to work writing up the speech. These are referred to as organizational styles or templates for organizing the main points of a speech. Next, provide feedback on targeted aspects of writing rather than all aspects to avoid overwhelming students. So as teachers, it is essential that we make the process of providing feedback a positive or at least a neutral one learning experience for the students. So feedback is any response from a teacher to a student's performance or behavior. It can be verbal, written, or gestural. The purpose of this feedback in the learning process is to improve students' performance. So as a teacher, always remember that this feedback is very important because of giving feedback to students, especially those positive feedbacks, will help the students or will help the students to improve their performance. Next is the modifications to learning task. First, permit students to dramatize or orally present a written assignment, either in lieu of writing or in preparation for writing. Next is to assign students suitable roles for the creation of a group-generated paper. So the instructor assigns students distinct roles within the groups. So as a teacher, it is very important that we need to distribute tasks in each of the students in a group. Okay, next is we will be discussing the teaching handwriting, the introduction of it. So when we say handwriting, it is a functional yet complex task in which lower level perceptual motor processes and higher level cognitive processes interact, allowing for communication of thoughts using a written code. It is from Abspen and Berninger 1993 and Overveld and Holstein 2011. So when we say handwriting, it is the writing done with a writing instrument such as pen or pencil in the hand. Handwriting rather includes both printing and cursive styles. So when we say teaching handwriting, it is one of the basic tasks of the elementary grades in all school systems. We all know this, right? That handwriting begins during our elementary grades. This is one of the basic tasks during elementary. Next, teachers generally emphasize correctness of letter formation, as well as the neatness of writing, uniformity of letters, spacing of letters and words, alignments of words and sentences, and speed of writing. Instruction begins with drawing or tracing of letter forms or words and moves to more rapid writing of words as skill is gained. The second one is the handwriting difficulties. Dysgraphia is the term used by some professionals to describe this disorder of written expression and incorporates various aspects including spelling and handwriting. So students with dysgraphia have unclear, irregular, or inconsistent handwriting, often with different slants, shapes, upper and lower case letters, and cursive and print styles. They also tend to write or copy things slowly. So those students who are experiencing difficulties when it comes to handwriting, spelling, it is what we call the dysgraphia. Next is the simple view of writing. A model of writing developed by Berninger 2002 addressed the developmental processes of how children learn to write is referred to as the simple view of writing. So a child who remembers the accurate spelling of a word will be able to dedicate less time and resources to writing. So the simple view of writing, or the SVW, suggests that writing consists of low-level skills such as spelling and handwriting, and higher-level ones such as planning, translating, and reviewing. And these are regulated by long and even short-term memory for the composition and revision of the written work. So here's Berninger and Abspen Model 2003. So you can see there in the graph, text generation, working memory, transcription, and executive functions. So what is the purpose of these four? So in text generation, there are words, sentences, discourse. In working memory activities, there are long-term memory and the short-term memory. In transcription, there is handwriting, keyboarding, and spelling. While in executive function, there is conscious attention, planning, reviewing, revising, strategies for self-regulation. So let's discuss it one by one. So in text generation, it is the process of encoding ideas into language for writing at word, sentence, and discourse level. So it involves oral language, as writers use their oral vocabulary and grammatical knowledge to generate words and sentences for their text. So remember, in text generation, words, sentence, and discourse. Next, in working memory, long-term memory for composing, while short-term memory for reviewing. So it is the model of how working memory, as conceived by Baldely, 1986, supports the planning of ideas, translating ideas into written sentences, and reviewing the ideas and the text. Next, transcription. It is the process in which speech or audio is converted into a written document. Closed captions are time-coded to the video, while a transcript is just the text with no time. Lastly, executive functions. It includes the ability to initiate, to break down, and even to follow through on multi-step tasks are critical in attaining academic success. So writing requires students to have all executive functions intact, as one must be able to plan, to set goals, and to self-start compose a well-written essay. Handwriting as language by hand. So there are four separate and interacting functional language systems. Language by ear or listening comprehension. The second is language by mouth or oral expression. The third one is language by eye or reading comprehension. The fourth one is language by hand or written expression. So of significance for the purpose of the present discussion, handwriting has been shown to be an integration of orthographic codes or the letter forms, phonological codes or the letter names and sounds, and graphomotor codes or the written shapes, and this is why it is referred to as the language by hand according to Berninger 2006. Next is handwriting and written expression. So handwriting contributes directly to compositional fluency and quality for both beginning or the primary grades 1 to 3 and developing or the juniors grades 4 to 6 writers. So Graham and his colleagues, 1997, used multiple group structural equation modeling to analyze the relationship between transcription or the handwriting and spelling, as well as the composition, who were virtually all general education students. After implementing two-time handwriting fluency measures, there are 3 spelling measures, assessment of spelling in separate writing samples, and 2 composition measures, the narrative and expository. The researchers developed 2 structural models. What are those 2 structural models? The first one is model of compositional fluency, and the second one is the model of compositional quality. So the results of the model of compositional fluency show that the relationship with handwriting and spelling were significant in the primary grades, but in the junior grades only the relationship with handwriting was significant. In the second model, the model of compositional quality, only the relationship with handwriting was significant for all 6 grade levels. So spelling only contributed to compositional quality indirectly through its correlation with handwriting. The next one is teaching spelling. So despite the proliferation of spell check in word processing documents, it is still important to teach spelling to children in school. Not every document will be written in a computer program, of course, nor will this program pick up every mistake. So a while ago, I discussed to you that we need to let our students to use a spell checker in the technology for them to check whether their spelling is correct or not. But we all know that not all written document is can be written in computer program. So we need also to teach spelling to our students. So what is proper spelling? So proper spelling is a fundamental part of a language art skills and continues to be taught in elementary schools across the United States. So students who have troubles when it comes to spelling may need remedial help. While most problems can be overcome with time and practice, it is important also to help our students to encourage a struggling students. So as a future educator, always remember that we need to help as well as encourage our students, especially those students who are experiencing struggle when it comes to handwriting and spelling. Here are the reasons why children have trouble when it comes to spelling. So it includes first, memory problems resulting in letter reversals. So poor visual memory is also common cause for letter reversals. A student with a visual memory problem will be more likely than his peers to continue reversing letters. So instead of letter B, they make it D. Instead of letter P, they make it letter Q. Next is lack of understanding letter-sound relationship. So the alphabetic principle is the understanding that there are systematic and predictable relationship between written letters and spoken sounds. Phonics instruction helps students to learn relationship between the letters of written language and the sounds of spoken language. The next one is failure to apply spelling rules or make connections between the rules and application of them. So spelling rules can help us to spell accurately by giving guidelines on how to make plurals more than one, or how to add suffixes such as adding ly and ment at the end of the word, and how to change the form of verbs, like for example by adding ing at the end of the word. So words that have come into English from other languages often keep that language spelling rules and letter combinations. Also the reason not reading or writing enough. So the students have limited time only in reading books and writing also articles and so on. Also trouble remembering sight words. And also classroom teachers and tutors can help students reach their potential by planning exercises and activities to reinforce spelling rules and words. So practice and repetition of the words to emphasize concepts, patterns, and rules regarding syllabication and word structure is very helpful, but other tools can be used as well. So what are those other tools? So teachers can make up songs, chants, and rhymes just to help students remember words or rules for spelling. Reciting these chants can help students have fun while they are learning. So develop also memory aids and mnemonic devices to help students spell words correctly. Individual learning tools can work wonders for students, helping them to learn. Next is practicing at home. So students who need remedial help with spelling benefit from practicing skills at home. Communication between schools and parents is imperative. Teachers should send home word and vocabulary list for the student to practice with. So reading and writing these words can help, but other activities will also make a difference. So it is very important that there is a communication between the schools, teachers, and parents for them to make sure that the students really learn from the school. It is also important that the teachers will let the student practice skills at the comfort of their home. Next is interactive computer games and websites can provide entertainment and reinforce spelling rules. Additional ways to practice words at home includes first, clapping in a beat as the student spells a word. Oh, so this is very funny. As the students spell a word, you clap. Making word puzzles. Writing the words in different colors. Like for example, the word is dog. Letter D is color blue. O is color pink rather, and G is color red, like that. Marching in place while spelling or bouncing a ball back and forth while spelling. And also, because these things, talking to your child's teacher about his or her progress can let the teacher know you are involved and or working on skills at home. The teacher may be able to suggest different activities and ways to approach spelling practice at home that you have not considered. So keeping the lines of communication open with the school is the best way to help your spelling challenge student. Curriculum considerations. Students are typically taught phonemic awareness and phoneme-grapheme associations, reserving the least consistent mapping such as consonant K and Z and long vowels for last. In kindergarten and first grade, common spelling patterns like for example phonograms and rhyme families 3, 4, and 5 are taught in first and second grades. Morphological structures like for example roots and affixes 3, 4, 5, and 6 and helpful spelling rules like for example adding ES to make words ending in S, Z, X, CH, or SH plural are taught in second grade and beyond. So students are taught systematic and effective strategies for studying new spelling words. Next, previously taught spelling words are periodically reviewed to promote retention. Correct use of spelling vocabulary in students' written work is monitored as well as reinforced. Next, students are taught and encouraged to use dictionaries, spell checkers, and other resources to determine the spelling of the unknown words. So that's end my discussion. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you learned something from me and from my discussion. Once again, I'm Clarice Conde. I'm discussing about remedial instruction in writing. God bless you everyone. Keep safe.